So in today's quick tip, I'm going to talk about these minor seventh chord clusters, right? So let me just give you an example of what this sounds like. Don't worry about the right hand, I'm just going to improvise. Focus mostly on that left hand. So now, where are these clusters coming from? Well, we already know that our typical minor seventh chord voicing would be this. That's a G minor 7 chord, right? And this is what we call our rootless chord voicing, or some people call them Bill Evans chord voicings. By the way, if you're interested in learning this, I have a free Academy blueprint back at Jazzedge Academy where you could learn all of your major, minor, and dominant seventh rootless chord voicings. Download the sheet music, all of that stuff, all absolutely free. So I suggest take a look at that if you're interested. All right, so in this chord voicing, what we're going to do is we're going to replace the fifth with the fourth, which I would normally call the 11th, but the fifth is a little bit easier for our purposes here, right? So rather than playing the fifth of the chord, I'm going to play the 11th or the fourth of the chord, okay? And what that does is, notice that it brings the distance of the notes closer together, right? So now where we have some space in there, now we're starting to have these notes closer together in here, and it creates more of a cluster. A cluster is just when these notes are clustered together like that, versus a more open voicing, you know, like something like that is a more open voicing, or these choral voicings are more open. This is more closed or cluster based, right? So that cluster creates its own amount of tension. Just take a listen to the chords by themselves. You can hear when I play that cluster, it makes it just a little bit darker, doesn't it? All right? So let's put on that iReal Pro. Actually, before I do that, let's do the F minor as well. So the F minor would normally be this, and I'm just playing the 11th up there. This is just one type of cluster. I'm going to give you two other ideas, but then you can come up with your own ideas as well. You know, you can even add in that root in there, and create a cluster like that. Right? Anyway, let's take this and let's go ahead through and just play that. Just the chords. And you can comp rhythms if you want. Well, that's fine. Remember, use that grab technique. Take a look at that quick tip I did on jazz piano technique. So you're going to have a lot of fun playing those clusters, and it's really going to change the way that your chords sound. Okay, so if you're kind of bored with your chords and you want something new to add some new spice to it, these clusters are a great way of doing that. All right, so let's take a look at another cluster. This is a quartal cluster. So we could start, first of all, by just playing quartals. And all I'm doing is playing a quartal right on the root. And I'm playing a quartal up. That's a fourth and a fourth. Stacked fourths. Of course, we have lessons on this as well, right? And then when I go down to the F, that's the F quartal. So I can start just with that, right alone, okay? So if you don't know this, here's a great trick for you right here. This was a game changer in my playing, I'll tell you that, knowing these quartal voicings. That's just the quartal voicing. Now what we're going to do though is we're going to add that third of the chord into that quartal voicing as well. So there's your G minor, there's your F minor, just adding in the third. So we start with the quartal, now we're adding in the third. Quartal, adding in the third. And what are we getting here with the quartal? We're getting the root, the 11th, and the 7th, and now we add in the third. We got ourselves a nice minor 7th chord voice in there. So let's just try playing that along with our track. next cluster voicing right there by bringing in the quartal, and then we're adding in the third. Okay, so that's our quartal cluster. The last one that I want to share with you is doing mini clusters. You don't have to do 4 notes. You can do even 3 notes. And there's a lot of value in just getting these little 3 notes in there, because not only could you use them as chord voices, you can also use you can also use it as an improvisational element as well, right? So if I start by just playing those mini clusters by themselves, right? We'll just do the mini cluster. Clusters in the right hand as well. And of course, I'm not saying that this is going to be useful every single gig, but it's the kind of thing that you could bring some of this stuff in from time to time, especially if you're, might be playing something a little bit more modern, right? And you want to, kind of change around your chord voicing, or if you're doing something, you're just jamming on a modal tune, like, So What or something, right? So like rather than playing your typical rootless chord voicings, you can bring in some of these clusters in here. That's another one that I like. There's E flat minor with a 9th and a 3rd. Or let's say that you're going to start to change around that feel, right? So let's say that now we're going to go into like, I don't know, maybe a funk feel, and we'll bring this down to like, maybe 80 beats a minute, right? Check this out now. Necessarily play that chord voicing because it might sound a little bit too jazzy. Bring our minis in. Right? And especially if you change around the voice that you use, right? So maybe you have a Rhodes patch or an electric piano patch, then that might come in handy. Let's say you go to organ, right? A lot of times, like these chord voicings are not going to work on organ. They're going to sound too muddy, right? So that's where those quartal voicings come in play, right? So by utilizing these different clusters, you're able to get some different sounds out of your chord voicings, all right? And that's going to spur some ideas in your improvisation, compositions, and whatnot. So it could really be quite a game changer for you. So anyway, if you would like the practice actions that go along with this quick tip video, just go ahead back to the Academy. Of course, you can also get all the sheet music and all of that stuff. Please also be sure to leave your comments, subscribe if you like the channel, but leave your comments really and let me know. Do you like this stuff? Do you not like this stuff? The more comments I get, the more quick tips that I make for you guys that you're looking to learn. All right, so anyway, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you in that next quick tip.